Hello and welcome to the Great Australian Craft Show number 6. Wow, I can't believe we've done that many events. This year is literally flying by, even with COVID and everything going on. I can't believe we're in September already. Hello, where'd the last 6 months go? So in today's class, this is all about gel plating, Geli Printing, or gel plating. It's got a few different names. Mono printing is another name. So I'll explain a bit about the gel plate, and then we're going to make some of these cute cards. Today we're actually going to make the owl card because my bird stamp has flown away. Cannot find it anywhere. We're also going to play with some of my products, some of my foam stamps that I make and manufacture in my business, and then we're going to play with some other things as well. So if you've never heard of a Geli plate before, let's go into that a bit. So this is how they come packaged. This is a smaller set. This is an 8x10 size. So they come in a huge variety of sizes. My friend at Hillbilly Scrapping can order you in any of the sizes. She's actually getting a selection of different shapes and sizes and things in probably in the next month. So probably by October, end of October, assuming the shipping to Australia can be organised with the slowdown with aeroplanes coming across. It's hard to get stuff at the moment. It's really tricky. Even trying to get raw materials for my products that I manufacture is interesting. Okay, so when they come in a clamshell packaging. So keep the packaging. When they actually come, I thought I'd demonstrate a small plate. They come with a piece of this acetate either side. What Gel Press suggests, the company that manufactures them, take those two off. You can never get them back on exactly, and if you get bubbles in them, it'll actually put bubbles in your plate because this is a gel plate. It's a flexible, sort of, not rubbery, it's gelatin-like. It's quite flexible, so you can move it like this. You can stick it onto a clear acrylic block, these small ones, and stamp with them. So to store it, we just stick it back in its clamshell and back in its packaging, so we don't actually use these things again. They come nice and clear. Unfortunately, mine are well loved and a bit dirty, but that's okay. And mine has gone a little yellow because it's several years old. So this is probably 8 or 9 years old, and it's had a lot of punishment. So I've just got it stuck here on an acrylic block just so it doesn't move around my table and so it doesn't stick to the paper I've got down, just protecting my work surface. So as you can see, mine's got a couple of ripples in it. I left that plastic on it and didn't use it for a while, but they will eventually come out of it. As you can see, I don't really clean mine. It's got specks of paint on it. We are using acrylic paint today. You can use inks. You can use basically anything that's water soluble. You can even use oil paints, but you don't want to use anything abrasive. So when you're using stuff on your gel plate, you want to use plastic items or foam stamps, nothing metal or abrasive. You don't want to put a dent into this gelatin because every time you do a print, that dent will be there. Okay, so basically this is a mono printing process. So mono printing means single print. So we're going to get a single print off when we put paint on this plate. We get a single pull, what we call a pull of paper. It'll make sense in a minute, bear with me. And you can't replicate that before. So even when I did this background, and this is just a simple one layer of paint, each piece is going to be slightly different. You're never going to be able to reproduce exactly the same paper, printed paper design. You get similar effects, like these two look similar, but the white bits are different. The coating of paint's different as well. So to build our cards, we need to make several prints, and when you get a gel plate to play with, you will make several prints in the one process, and we'll show you that. So we're going to stamp these leaves, and so these are my foam stamps that I make and manufacture. This is our abstract leaf and our leaf with dots or spots on our website. So these are reasonably priced, and they're actually on, I believe they're on sale. We have sales on our website quite often. There will be a sale in September. If you're watching this at a later date, pop onto our website, www.scrapbookincraft.com.au. If I get creative, I might put it across the screen with my video editing. So I make and manufacture these right here in Australia and ship them out. So they don't need to be attached to acrylic block. They're about 1 centimetre thick, so they're great to hold. They're thick enough to grab and hold. You don't need to add them to an acrylic block, which is great. So we need to make a few different prints to make this card happen. We need to make a blueprint for the background, which is just laying out some paint on the plate and taking a print, we need to make some pink background to stamp our owl on, and we use the foam stamp to stamp these images. When we're stamping these images, we actually get another print. You'll see that in a minute. So we're actually going to produce lots of papers, but we're only going to use a few in the end class. Clear as mud? Makes sense. So this card is actually an easel card. It's going to be very hard to show that in the... So this actually stands up. So it's a 6 by 6 inch card. And what I've done is, this is the back part of the card. This is the front part of the card. I've scored it here at 3 inches. And this panel is actually stuck to here. So when you stick it on your table, it actually sits up like a little easel. And on the inside of the card, we have some more Geli plate pink paper here, some white paper, another stamped image. And the reason I have this twine here is when you make these easel cards, you need something here. So you need something for this flap to sit against, whether you put a piece of ribbon, whether you put something up on foam tape. You just need something so that does not slide flat, because otherwise it won't stand up. So these are very cute to display. And then they will fold down very flat to go into the mail. See, they fold down really, really flat. So if I didn't put the twine, they'd be a lot flatter, but I like the twine on it. It's really cute. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's get started. So we're going to start with our blue background. When you're choosing paint colours like this, you want to choose colours that are all sort of in the same tonal range. For example, this is the blue I'm using. So we're using acrylic paint. So I'm using several different brands. Doesn't really matter what brand you use. But you're wanting an opaque paint. Some cheaper brand paints are translucent. And you'll notice that when you start to roll it out on your plate and you take a print, you'll notice that the paints are translucent. Not so good for this technique. But we want colours that are all in this tonal range. So for example, this is the blue we're using, which is Craft Tropical Waters. Then we're using this purple, which is actually from Aldi. I grab my paints from lots of different places. So this is an Aldi purple acrylic paint. And then we're using this pink, which is Anita's. I don't even know where I got this from. A friend gave me a whole bunch of her old paints. I believe this one's from Spotlight. No, Lincraft. I don't know. But again, it's just an acrylic paint. So see how these three tones are sort of in that bold colour? For example, we don't want to take this dark purple out and put this light purple in, because this is quite a pastel colour and it's going to look different wrong on the card. You want sort of colours are in the same, I call them the same tone. I don't know whether that's the right terminology, but these are like bright and bold colours. If you were going to use this colour, I would pick a more pastel pink and a more pastel greeny blue. Clear as mud? Let's get some paint started. So I've also got some Montmartre paint here. You can use that. Canson, you can use that. You can basically use any acrylic paint. Some paints are better than others. It just depends on the brand and how it reacts on the plate. So first thing we're going to do is make that blue background. So you also need a brayer when you're using your gel plate, and you'll need a supply of paper. So I've got a few different types of paper. This is photocopy paper, but it's 160 GSM. I wanted it a little thicker for the card making. I will sometimes print onto just photocopy paper if I'm using it in my art journal. And we're also using some of this. This is greaseproof paper from Woolworths. It's in a bright pink package. It's 30 metres for like $2. It's really, really cheap. So it has a shiny side on the outside of the roll and a plain side. We always print on the plain side and then we glue down the shiny side. So we're not actually using this particular paper in the class today, but I'm using it to mop up some of the paint and I will get other prints. So the prints that we make today, we're not going to use every single print in this card. It'll make more sense as we go along if you've never gel plated before. It's a lot of fun. It's a little addictive. It's very messy. So this is an 8 by 10 size plate, and we need about 2 green pea size blobs of paint. The thing with the gel plate is if you put too much paint on it, it's not going to give you a really good print or a really good result. So an 8 by 10 size plate, I judge about 2 green pea size blobs of paint. So when you're brayering it out, you don't want to push your brayer like this and have your brayer in contact with your plate all the time. You want to sort of do a stroke, lift your brayer up and go down. It's more like a flicking motion than sort of a pushing motion. You can see the plate's getting quite covered in paint, and I can see that's quite translucent, so we do need a little bit more paint. You can always take paint off the plate, and you can always add a little bit more. I think my second pea was a bit scungy. So we're just going to brayer it out. Doesn't matter if you brayer it up and down. If you brayer it up and down is just easy for me when I'm sitting down and doing it. So also when I'm brayering, what I want to do is sort of flick the brayer. See how that roller's rolling? So to get a good distribution of the ink, every time I move it, my roller is rolling around when I pick it up. Does that make sense? I've been gel printing for probably 8 to 10 years, and my wrist just automatically does that action. And when I'm in classes, I try to explain it, and I don't explain it well. So it's more like a little flick of emotion. Now we're going to take our paper and put it down on top of our plate, and we're going to give it a good press with our hand. You don't need to press very hard, but we're just going to give it a nice push. If you wanted to, you could take your brayer and go, if you had a second brayer, you can go over the back. I love the tactileness of just doing this with your hands. It's just very, I don't know, it's very cathartic. It's nice to touch and feel things. So you want to go right to the edge. This paper's slightly bigger than your plate, but that's okay. So you want to go slightly to the edge, start pulling off, and when you pull it off, you know you've got enough paint when your plate is almost clear. Mine's a yucky yellow colour, but that's all right. And these couple of marks here is because I've got a couple of dints in my plate because I didn't store it properly, but that's okay. That just adds a bit of texture. Your papers will roll up a bit. I can go back and pick this bit of paint back up, so you can put your paper back down and give it another rub, and it will pick a bit more of this paint up. Now I like leaving these bits of what I call crusty paint, because if you see this, there's a bit of purple in here that it's been picked up. So these bits of blue will be picked up in the next print, and that's what makes them unique. You're never going to be able to reproduce this exact print because of these marks, because of these marks, because of the white bits. I don't mind that. If I wanted a solid colour with nothing with interest on it, I would just use a piece of cardstock. But this makes it really nice, and it feels really nice, and this is basically dry when you pull it off. It should be that way. You shouldn't have a lot of paint on your paper. So when you pull your paper off, it should be almost dry. So this is our background piece done. So this is the background of our card here. Let's go ahead and do our purple for our bird and our little flag. So I could have done this on, I do own a variety of sizes of gel plates because I like every size. But I could have done this on a smaller plate, but I just like using my larger plate. Now, if you've got excess colour on your brayer, I'm just going to stick that paper there for a minute. I just grab another bit of paper. It's dried on my brayer. That's okay. What I tend to do is I will take my brayer and just brayer off on another piece of paper, but it's actually dried on my brayer, but that's okay. It's quite humid here tonight, even though it's cold outside. So we're just going to add some pink. So to the pink, I'm going to add a little bit of purple. Actually, I'm just going to, I'm going to add this purple. So this is going to, it's actually a new purple. So let's open the lid. I obviously did these with different colours, but that's all right. I couldn't find the exact colours I used. So putting two colours straight on the plate, we can brayer them together. The more you brayer and go over and over, the more your colours will mix. So you want to sort of stop when your plate is covered, but you've still got this mottly look. Clear as mud. And I'm trying to get the glare off, but you're just going to have to put up with the glare because the paint's going to glare. So just put this paper down. While that paper's sitting there, I'm just going to take this bit and brayer off here. I'm actually getting quite a bit of texture on my brayer, which is great. Usually I don't, but I let some paint dry on my brayer, and it gives a nice texture. Now I'll keep brayering this with different colours until I like the look. I'll put this aside and I will use this as a background. I'll stamp images on it. I'll tear it up and use it in my art journal. So as you can see, we're going to make several prints from this one card, and you're going to have bits left over. So just pushing this again. You just probably have the paper in contact for about 10 to 15 seconds. I just like doing this with my hand, so sometimes I leave it a bit longer. Doesn't matter if you leave it longer. So again, I'm just going to pull it off. And you can see I've got some funky designs in here. Now this is a bit wet. It's not as dry as the blue paint because I added a bit more paint. But this is almost touch dry. There's a couple of little wet spots. But that's going to be for our owls and our banner. And this is also going to go inside our card as a layering piece. Now we get to do the fun bits. So this is basically when you get a gel plate or when you're using it the first time, just make some backgrounds like this, add a couple of colours of paint. Be very careful when you're mixing colours. You want colours that will mix together. So think of that colour wheel. You don't want to go, for example, colours that will make mud. So not blue and orange. They will sort of make mud, or red and green make brown mud. You don't want to do those sort of colours. So now we want to go in with pure purple. What we might do to add a bit of interest, we might go light and dark purple to get it a bit tonal. Now we're going to use our stamps and we're going to do our stamping. Now when I'm doing this stamping, I'll add a little bit more paint than I would normally add because I want really nice stamped images. I'm running out of room. I've got paper everywhere. So I'm going to grab a piece of paper and move this over. So having the two colours on there will give our leaves a bit of tonal value and a bit more interest than a solid colour. I think I've done that on here. I have. Not so much on that one. It sort of got a bit muddy. I sprayed it out a bit too much, but that's okay. That still works. There is sort of not much that can go wrong with a gel plate apart from adding too much paint. Now, I want to grab my foam stamps and I'm just going to drop them onto the plate, press down, and this is going to remove paint. So now I'm going to take that to my piece of paper and hold it for about 5 seconds. So this is our little stamped images we're actually going to use. So you might find you need to do a few because some might not work out completely stamped. Sometimes you have to stamp a couple to get a bit of layer built up on the stamp to get it to work properly. That one's a better stamp than that one. So sometimes it takes a few stamps to get it going. As you can see, I don't know whether you can see if I can bring this up. You can see we've got this pattern in here in the paint where the paint is being missing. So every time I go to stamp, I'm actually moving my stamp to a different position on the plate. Now at the moment I'm just making rows of leaves. I've got 3 here, I've got 3 here, and I'll keep going. I could make a design in this. You have to work fairly quickly because your paint will dry. Say, for example, in your Queensland, Australia, or in your humid place, your paint will dry a lot quicker than a cold place. So it's a bit humid in my house tonight with the heater blaring in the background. So I'm just going to stamp. As I said, we're going to have way too many of these stamps. What you want to be careful of is when you drop it down and when you pick it up, you want to drop it straight down and pick it straight up. You don't want to move it like this. You don't want any movement, horizontal movement, vertical movement, horizontal movement. So now we've got a beautiful page of stamps. We'll go on to our next one. We've got a few more we can fit at the top. Then I'll show you what this print will look like. This is fun for the kids to do. My 12-year-old has been gel plating ever since she was possibly 3 or 4, and she just loves gel plating. It is fun to do with the kids. You can use so many different things to make patterns in your paint. That's basically what you're doing, is you're adding pattern into paint or texture into paint and then taking a print of it. Now to care for these stamps, I would have a baby wipe ready. You don't want this paint to actually dry on the stamp because it will give you a crusty layer on your stamp and then your stamp won't stamp well. So I just give it a wipe with a baby wipe. It'll stain a little, but you're basically just wanting to get it back to not much paint, not big blobs of paint on it. Now before this dries, I'm going to use some of our greaseproof paper from Woolworths. Sorry, I should have ripped a piece off before we started. So flat side down, it's bigger, oops, it's bigger than the gel plate, but that's okay. I need a bigger desk. When my daughter and I gel plate, we have prints everywhere. We have them all over the couch. We often get out our clothes horse to stick them all up. Seriously, once you start doing this, if you start with a gel plate, I will warn you now, it's fairly addictive. I have probably got a couple of meters stacked high of prints around if I stacked all my gel prints on top of each other that we've done over the years, and I'm slowly using them. So as I peel this off, there's just a bit more paint there. So if you peel it off from one side and you notice that there's still paint in the plate and there's not paint here, you can just put your paper back and give it a bit of a rub. This is thinner paper, so you have to be a little bit careful. And see, we've got some beautiful pattern paper with our leaf designs in it. So we could easily go and cut these leaf designs out and use those, or we can use the stamped image. So you're sort of getting the positive and the negative effect, which is really cool. This is the effect we want today. This is a pretty piece of paper we can use in my art journal. I can cut these out. I made a peacock at one stage with these feathers. I stamped them out too many times, oodles of times, and made a peacock. We're going to make this leaf now. So this leaf I might do just solid purple. So it just has a bit more tonal value on the card. Oops, there goes purple paint on my desk. Brayer. I've got paper everywhere. So again, we're just wanting to brayer this out. You can also use Tim Holtz Distress Inks and Distress Oxides on your plate. You can use alcohol inks. You can use watercolours. The list is sort of endless. Now we're going to grab this leaf stamp with the dots on it. So both these stamps will be under a section called Great Australian Craft Show Classes 6 on our website, and there will be a discount on them for the week of the show, which is middle of September. I can't remember the dates. So again, the first one didn't come out real good. I'm not worrying about the stem this time because I am going to cut these out. That's a better one. So as you don't expect your first one to come out perfect. As I said, a bit of paint needs to build up on your stamp. You can sort of see as you're taking the paint away where you've taken the paint away off the plate. You probably can't see it on the screen. Oh yeah, you can. So you know where to drop your leaves down. So I'm just going to grab another one. I'm just dropping these leaves randomly. So we actually have a new range of stamps while I'm stamping this. We have a new range of stamps coming out for September, which I'm so excited. They just got produced yesterday. I am so excited. I haven't even got one dirty with ink and paint yet. I have to film these classes first before I can play. But we will have a video coming out. We've had about 4 releases of stamps. They're becoming very popular. We also have a YouTube channel, and we are going to endeavour to get more. Just got paint up my arm near my elbow because it leant on my plate. We are endeavouring to get more videos about using our products, and that's where these classes will end up eventually as well. So welcome if you found us on the YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is the same as our business name, Scrapbookingncraft. So we're getting some beautiful stamped leaves, just a couple more to fill up the page. I could have done half the page with half the stamps and half the page with the other stamps, but I get a bit addicted to this. I get a bit carried away. I could sit here all day and play with my gel plate. Do I have I'll put one. I can fit one more up there on the corner. Oops, I dropped it. If you do drop it, you can, without pressing it down, you can usually pick it up. As we're not really worried about this as our print, yes, it makes a beautiful print, but that's not our primary objective today. Our primary objective for our card is to stamp out these images. So I've got one just there. So I could stamp over the top of here, which looks really cool as well. I thought I had some paper ripped off. I do have some paper ripped off. So actually I will do it on this normal paper. Change my mind. I'm allowed to. What was I going to say? The reason I like to stamp onto this greaseproof paper is it's quite thin. So a lot of these prints will be collaged in my art journal in the background. So I don't want this particularly thicker paper because if you have thicker paper and you're doing a few layers, your book gets really, really thick. So that's why I use photocopy paper, just normal printer paper a lot, and I'm just using this thicker 160 GSM paper from Officeworks, just because I wanted it to be a bit more stable on the card. So just giving that a good press down. I've got stuff everywhere. Let's just get that ink off the brayer. I love some of these effects. Some of these are my favourite prints. Usually you don't get so much texture. You'll get a bit more paint, but as I said, this brayer's got dried paint on it. I must go purchase a new brayer. As you can tell, I don't wash things a lot. I am terrible. I usually keep the brayer pretty clean, but around here, don't worry about that. So just pushing this down. You can print on cardstock. You can basically print on any paper that's not shiny. Like I wouldn't print on a glossy photo paper. Ooh, isn't that pretty? That is very pretty. So this is great because this is what we call a mono print. So even if I did this again and stamped again, I wouldn't get my stamps in exactly the same place. I wouldn't get the same amount of paint transfer. So each of these prints are a mono print, so they're a once-off print. Let me double check we've got all our pieces before we get going on the next bit. So we've done our blue background. We've done our blue background. We've done our purple for our owl. I should be showing you this one because this is the actual one I'm doing. I don't know where that bird stamp is. That bird stamp is actually a Dina Wakley stamp. I believe it's still available. This owl stamp, it was a free one on a magazine. I don't know, and it's years old. It's what I found in my stash when I was looking for these. So we've got that, which is the owl and the inside, and we've got loads of leaves. So we needed at least 4 of the abstract leaf and 2 of the other ones, but we've got plenty. Let me clean up a little and get rid of my gel plate. I'll put it off to the side and get organised, and I'll be back, and we'll move on to our next step of our card. Okay, so I've made sure these prints are really dry. Before we go and do this next step, we do want to make sure our prints are totally dry. They don't take a long time to dry. Because you're using a really, really thin layer of paint, they take next to no time to dry. Now, what I've done on these leaves is I've actually done some hand drawing or some hand doodling. So we're going to do that. What I like to hand draw with, this is actually from Officeworks. It's a uni ball eye micro, and it's a very, very thin, it's waterproof, so I like it in my art journal. As you can see, you can get really, really thin lines. Now, if you don't have anything like this, you can certainly use a ballpoint pen, like just a normal black pen. That will work as well. So to just add another layer to these stamped images, yes, I love how they look now, but I want to bring just another layer of interest onto them. I'm going to see if I can do this from a distance and actually get it on the shapes. For anyone that doesn't know me regularly or watch my videos, I do have low vision. I'm not even allowed to drive a car. That's how bad my vision is. So me sitting back with this in the middle of my table trying to draw around these will be interesting. But we'll do our best. Otherwise, if I move it out of frame, you won't see what I'm doing. And I apologise if my head comes in. I'll try to keep my big head out of the frame. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to loosely draw around all the shapes. So we're just going to sort of trace around, and if we're not accurate, it doesn't really matter. And I find if I do a couple of lines around the edge like that, as opposed to I'll just do one line around this one. Oh, that's a bit bumpy. Okay, so I've just got one line around this one. I'll pull it up so you can see it. So I've got one line around this one, and I've got multiple lines, probably 2, say 3 lines around this one. And it doesn't matter that I've got like a line here and a line here. This one looks a bit more pleasing to the eye than this one, because this has only got one line. It looks a bit lost and looks a bit funny. And also, the more lines you do, you can sort of correct what you've done. See how I've gone out here a bit? Not a big deal. My second line can come in. My second line, let's see if I can actually do it correctly, can come back in here, and then my third line can go over the top. See how that's just made that look really cool? I do a lot of hand drawing like this. When I did the peacock, it's actually on my YouTube channel, for my work YouTube channel. I made probably 100 of these, and I hand doodled over the 100 of them. It's very fun. So then we're just going to outline all the white shapes. Again, if we're not accurate, it's no big deal. Whoops, that one's really inaccurate. If it's a little off, it really doesn't matter. These ones I'm sort of going to do one line around because they're sort of a smaller shape, and if I go and do 2 or 3 lines, but usually my outline is multiple lines. So as you can see, it doesn't take that long to draw around the shapes. This is great to do if you are doing a huge project like this, or you're making a set of these cards, or you're making lots of these cards. Stamp out all your images at home, and then I take advantage of my time waiting for my daughter, time travelling on public transport, because I don't drive. Usually pre-COVID I travelled on the train a lot going to work, and to my friend's house that I work with as well, which is 2.5 hours drive away on the train. So I would take stuff like this to doodle over the top of. I would take these to cut out. So take advantage of your downtime. I would take these in a little book when I took my daughter to doctor's appointments or different appointments. If I've got time to sit there, even if I got 2 or 3 coloured or 2 or 3 cut out, that's 2 or 3 more than I had before I started. I often sit on the train and fussy cut things out, and I get the funniest looks. It's so funny. But I don't care what people think of me. I sit there and do my own thing. It's 2.5 hours I can take advantage of. It keeps me busy. It's amazing how quick the time flies by when you're actually keeping occupied. And I don't like to work on my laptop on the train because I like to work on my laptop with my larger screen at home. So it's not as if I like to work on my laptop. There we go. How does that look? See how they look totally different than these ones? So yes, we could use these ones, but I find they look a bit unfinished to me. You don't have to do the hand doodling if you don't want to. It's totally up to you. It is a little time consuming. Now, how many of these do we need? 3. So I'll go back and do this one. They're not really time consuming. Like, it takes an extra step, but I think it makes it. While I'm trimming around this, I was doing around this one. So I also have a custom made service with my business. So I make and manufacture chipboard embellishments mainly. I do plastic stencils, I do foam stamps, and I do white mixed media cardstock out of laser cut that out of shapes as well. I always forget that one. But we also have a custom design service as well. So if you're after a particular shape or a particular word, you can email me and say, can you make such and such? Most of the time I say yes. It depends. I have to be a bit careful with trademark and all that legal funny stuff. But most of the time I can make what you'd like. And it's not expensive to get one-off things. So you can have one-off stamps, you can have one-off stencils, you can have one-off chipboard. So just drawing around the veins. Again, not being 100% accurate. I find the more I try to think about it and the more I try to stick to the lines, the worse it becomes. So I sort of turn my brain off and just go for it. What's the worst if you stuff it up? You move on to another one. You've got plenty, go stamp some more. It's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. And what have you wasted if you throw this page out? Half a sheet of A4 paper, which is not much, and a bit of paint, which is not much at all. That's my philosophy with art journaling and with my crafting. I like to have a go, and if things don't work, I haven't wasted a lot of raw material. It's not as if this is expensive paper. I think I get about 250 sheets for under 20 bucks, so quite cheap paper, but good paper. So it's this paper I'm working on at the moment is J Burrows from Officeworks, 160 GSM, and it's under $20. I can't exactly remember the price. I usually don't like to quote prices because prices go up and down like a yo-yo sometimes. Oh, this one's getting a bit wibbly wobbly. That's okay. Sorry if my hand's in the way. It's hard to draw and show what you're doing. But I'm basically doodling around circles. Oh, I haven't done the edge of this one either. So these shapes are quite easy to fussy cut out. They're not difficult as well. A lot of the foam stamps I make that I visage doing this with, I make nice lots of clean lines, so they're quite easy to cut out. I'm not worrying about the tail of the stem. We are going to cut that off. Now, I'm going to cut them out. So what I like to do is roughly cut them out first, just to get them away from the other sheet. Just going to be a little careful around there, because those stamps got a bit close together. So these are just a pair of embroidery scissors. It's what I like to fussy cut with. It's going to be fun fussy cutting this far in, away from my face, but away from my eyes, but we'll see how we go. See how I'm keeping my scissors straight? It's easier if you haven't done a lot of what we call this fussy cutting before, and some people haven't picked up scissors since they've been in primary school. It's easier to keep this hand still, so your dominant hand, whatever hand you cut with or write with, still, and spin the paper around with your other hand, then trying to do this and go around the shape and move your hand with the scissors. So I just manipulate the bit of paper around. I fussy cut lots, so I can do it quite quick. I'm sort of cutting on the line, but sometimes I leave a little bit of white, so again, it's not a big deal if you're not perfect with cutting out scissors, cutting out your shapes. So going around the round shapes are a bit harder than square shapes, but as you can see, they're not that hard to cut out. So I've got 2 of those, and I need 3 of these cut out. So as you can see, I've got loads more for another project, or I can make a second set of cards. I could make a, I'll only make 1 card with you today. I won't sit here and bore you to tears and make a whole set of cards, but you can easily batch these cards up. And this would be great for the kids as well. So the kids could have fun stamping, and then you could help them with the cutting and they can draw around it. My daughter had awesome scissor skills. You could always tell which was her cutout piece of work on the wall, even though none of them were named, because I let her cut stuff with me ever since she could hold a pair of scissors in her hand. So she was always cutting stuff. So don't be afraid to get your kids to help you. As well. Great activity while we're stuck in lockdown here in Victoria in September still. I think we're in lockdown for a few more months yet, off and on, sort of with differing restrictions. I don't really mind. I'm home a lot anyway. I work from home, so working from home wasn't any change for me. I felt like saying, can I go and work somewhere else? So working from home is the norm for me. Okay, so we've got our petals. We need to stamp our owl. Now I'm going to put these aside. So I'm actually going to use a Tim Holtz, and I've just got everything around the floor, so I'd have to get up and get things. So this is a Tonic Tim Holtz stamping platform. Now there are many companies that have got stamping platforms out there. They basically allow you to repetitively stamp over in the same spot with when you're inking up. Clear as mud. I find stamping over these prints, I need to stamp them a couple of times to get it nice and dark. So each stamping platform comes with a couple of magnets. So you slide your paper in the corner of this one with a couple of magnets. Grab our stamps. So these are by Woodware Craft Collection. I don't know whether that means anything, but they did come on a magazine for free several years ago. So we're going to use the little owl stamps. So when you're using the stamping platform, on this particular one side says clear and the other side says rubber. So I've got the clear side, the word showing up. Now I like this platform because I can pick where I want my stamps. So I can pick what area I want to stamp. So let's do this owl down here. We're going to stamp 2 owls, and then I'm going to decide which one I want. So you place them, so your rubber stamps are bumpy on one side, obviously that's a bit that stands, and flat. So you place them bumpy side down, like you'd normally stamp. Flip this over, give it a bit of a press, picked up your stamps. So this is stamping without using an acrylic block. Usually you'd mount them on acrylic block. I never like stamping because I could never get it correct. I could never ink it up properly. I could never line it up, but I love my stamping press. Not sure whether the Tim Holtz one is available. Still, there was a lot of kerfuffle when these first come out about copyright and infringement. But another company, other companies have them out. So they're usually called stamping platforms. So I'm just inking that up again, and when I close this up, we are going to get perfectly stamped images that are directly on top of each other. So because of the magnets, my paper hasn't moved. So I might go over and do it once more, just to get a really good damp stamp, dark stamp. This is an archival ink we're using just to get a nice black. Archival just basically means waterproof. There we go. See how they're nice dark black stamps? Okay. So we're also going to stamp some sentiments. So I'm just going to take off this little white strip here. Why get another bit of paper when I can use that? I'm just going to put that aside to dry. I'm going to just give my stamps a little bit of a clean with a baby wipe. As you can tell, I don't clean them that often because this top stamp is very dark. So I'm going to pop these away. I'm going to grab the sentiments. There's 2 sentiments on here, so I'm going to work out which one I want to use later. So I often will stamp several things at once, and this stamping platform, I'm just going to work out which way my words go. This stamping platform allows you to mount up many stamps as well. You can actually cover the entire, actually I'm going to move those because I want a bit more room around that one. So then I'll put my magnet down. Just be careful that your magnets don't touch. They don't like to touch. They're super strong magnets. If they touch each other, they can crack. So now I've got my 2 sentiment stamps there. You can fill this entire thing with stamps, so you can stamp a lot at the one time. So I'll just give that another stamp. So I believe there's an Australian company making these called Couture Creations as well. And again, I get a lot of my supplies from Hillbilly Scrapping. On my website, you will only see my stamps, the stuff I make and manufacture, which is the chipboard, the stamps, the white GSM cardstock, and the stencils. Also, my daughter's selling paper napkins for a school business assignment on my website at the moment as well. But I don't stock any of these other things. I don't stock ink pads. I don't stock that sort of stuff. So I will mention Hillbilly Scrapping. Her and I team up. If you've been to some of the craft shows in Victoria pre-COVID, and hopefully next year we can get back to doing craft shows, we team up and do the craft shows together. So we do classes at the craft shows. Just going to give this a buzz with the heat tool. It's looking a bit shiny wet still. So Hillbilly Scrapping is a business based in a website plus shop from home business in Swan Hill. So we often travel to the craft shows together. I teach all the classes at the craft show. She brings her huge, she usually brings the entire shop with her. So she stocks everything under the sun. Now with this stamp, because these little feet are really fine, I'm actually going to cut them off when I cut this owl out, and I'm just going to redraw them on the actual project. So I might use this owl on the project. So I've got a choice of either owl. Again, this one's quite easy to cut out. And I don't have to actually go and colour him in now because he's nice and coloured. Sorry if this is a bit awkward to watch. Just trying to cut him out, not cut his ears off. Okay. What owl did I do on the last card? Oh, I did the different owl. I did him last time. Let's do a different owl. Sometimes I keep these scraps to collage in my art journal. This one's a bit small. I'm trying not to keep small scraps like that because I usually keep everything. I'm terrible. Okay. So what I found is this owl is a bit, his lines are very straight and very like not scribbly like these, so I wanted to match it in. So I just took my fine liner and just sort of scribbled over the edge of him in the same sort of fashion. I'm sorry if my head's in the way. So I'm just scribbling around the edge and on a little bit of his body. Whoops. Just to sort of tie him together with the scribbling, because I felt he sort of looked a bit funny. I'm going to leave his eyes. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm just going to go around his eyes a little bit. Probably should have done this before I cut it out, so I had a bit bigger paper to hold on to. See how scribbling around him has actually just changed him and matched him in here? So this is the one that hasn't been scribbled around, even though it's the same one. And it just transforms your stamp. So I find I do a lot. I love to hand doodle and hand draw over my stamped images. And it also makes it unique and ties more of me to it. Now, the least fun bit I like, cutting papers. Cutting card layers. Okay. I need to go find some black cardstock. I didn't grab that. Probably would have been handy if I pre-cut all these layers, but that's okay. It'll only take me a couple of minutes to cut them. And it also shows you if you've not card made before. I've got 2 sheets of black. I don't need 2 sheets of black. It's a bit thin. My thicker black is up the top. So I've just got a cardstock here. This is a textured cardstock. So I'm just going to cut the branding strip off. So to make this card, I need a 6 by 12 inch piece of cardstock. And then I need a 6 by 6 inch piece of cardstock. So this is the panel we're going to build on. This is an extra piece. Get rid of that. So now this piece here we need to score. So I'm just going to quickly change my blades. This is an American Crafts paper trimmer. I don't even know whether this is in production anymore. It's quite old. A lot of my stuff's quite old. So we're just going to score at 6 inches, which will fold our card in half. And then we're going to score at 3 inches, which will make our little flappy thing. So I'm just going to fold over those. So this is the base of our card. So this is the base that sits on the desk where we write our message in, and this is where our panel sits on the card. Now if I can remember my measurements. Now I need a white piece of paper that is, and I'm just going to use that same paper I was printing on. I can find a piece I didn't put paint all over. So this white piece of paper, so this is 6 inches, and this is where I stuff things up. I'm not a good mathematical person. So that's 6 inches. So if we make this one 5 3/4, or is it 5 1/2? No, I think it's 5 3/4. Oh, helps if we change our blade back to cutting. I always do that. So this is 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. So this is 6 by 6. I've done something wrong. It doesn't fit. Oh, I need a bit more off this side. Cutting paper and layering like this is not my forte. Usually I'd rip layers, but I thought I would stretch myself this time. Okay, so that's our base, that's our white. Then we need another bit of black. So we're going to take that scrap that I said we don't need, and we're going to cut this at, so that's 6 inches, 5 3/4. The black is 5 1/2. Yes, that's right, before I cut it. Don't ever ask me to cut stripe paper. That I have issues with. So now this should form a, I must invest in a set of dies that does this one day. That's a bit bigger, but that's okay. So that's our panel there. Now we need to get our blue piece of printed gel paper and sort of decide what section we want. I'm sort of wanting down here. So I'm going to cut some of this off so I can get an edge I can measure from. I'll keep that strip because I can stamp sentiments on it. So now I'll move this over here, and this has to be cut at 5 1/4. Yes, 5 1/4, 5 1/2, 5 3/4. Yes. So they've got 1/4 inch quarter of inch measurements. I must get a set of dies that'll do this for me, so this will be so much easier. So just make sure you cut a little bit off the edge so you've got a straight edge to work with. So this was 5 1/4. Because as I said, this is not my cutting forte. I think a set of those dies would be awesome. Now, while we've got our paper trimmer out, we're going to cut the inside of our card so we get the rest of the pink or the purple that we stamped our owl on. And we want to cut this at 5 1/2. And again, I just want to take this white little edge off. And 5 1/2. So we're not going to see a lot of this because we're going to put a white square on top of it. So these is great to use the prints that you don't particularly like or didn't work out. We're only going to see a smidgen of this colour around the edge. So these big pieces I'll keep and put in my scrap box. Now I need some more white. Oh, there's another white piece. Okay, so that was 5 1/2. This is 5 1/4. Do it 5. We'll do it 5 and give it a bit more of a border. So I need 5 by 5 inches. Okay, so now we've done all our cutting. Now we'll see if this all works. If it doesn't work, I'll stop the video and start again. No, it's going to work. Be positive. Okay, so that's going to be the inside of the card. So let's get that stuck in double-sided tape. I know I grabbed some. Where did I put it? It's not within arm's reach. Hang on. I thought I grabbed everything I need. It was hiding under a pile of jelly prints. That is the way when I jelly print, I get stuff everywhere and put stuff everywhere. So this is just regular double-sided tape, just the flat stuff. We're not using any foam tape on this card. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to put, okay, that little bit stuck on my finger, just putting a piece around, it's hard to see on this colour, I'm sorry, a piece around the edge of all 4 edges. So I've got a piece around there, piece around there, piece around there, and a piece around there, and I'll show you a trick. We're going to use this trick all the time to line these up. Now I did see this on YouTube on a card maker channel. I don't remember who it was because it was many years ago. But I use this in scrapbooking as well. Now I'm going to peel off just about 2 centimetres and fold this back and just score it with my finger so this tail sticks out. We want to do that to each of our 4 pieces of tape. So this is why it's important to do one line of tape. I just sort of score it with my finger. So it doesn't matter which end, you can have. Come on, come out. It's hard because it's a bit of a smaller bit. You can have the 2 bits here or you can have either end, doesn't matter. Now, because when we put this down like this, you want these tails, see these tails? Sorry, I'll move up a bit. You want these tails sticking out. So I can slide this around. And because not a lot of tape is exposed yet, it won't stick. So I can actually line it up. Let me get that out of here for a minute. I can actually line it up to where I want it. I'm having issues because I've got colours everywhere. This is not my forte either, so it's not going to be 100% straight. But that's okay. So now when I'm happy with it, I press down where I've removed the tape from and it will grab just a little. Put my hand in the centre and just gently pull these tails and it will expose the sticky tape and then I can just press it down. See how that's so easy? Wish I could remember who I saw it on YouTube and I could give credit where credit's due. It's not my idea, I'm not that smart. But I use this trick all the time on my scrapbooking and card making now. So this goes on the inside of our card, so let's do that. We're going to do that in exactly the same way. Certainly, if you've got your own trick on how to line things up, go for it, do it your way. Ow! Don't you love it when the double-sided tape stabs you under the fingernail? It hurts. So this is our card. So this is the base of the card. So this is the 6 by 6 inch square. This is the 6 by 3 inches. And then this is the 6 by 3 inch one we have scored. Ow! Paper cut under my nail from the sticky tape. Ow! That's a bit mean. Crafting attacks. Okay, so again, I'm going to slide it round and get it where I want it. Hand on, and you just want to gently pull the tape out. You don't want to put too much pressure on the top. You just want to put enough pressure. I'm just hoping that the cut I've now got under my thumbnail is not going to start putting blood marks on my project. Craft attacks. That's terrible. Okay, while we're working on this back panel, we are going to take... No, we're not, because we didn't do enough. We need another stamped image. I lied. We need one more. I wonder if I have one that I stamped out last time. Bear with me a moment. Just found another one I'd roughly cut out. I forgot that we're putting one on the inside of the card. So we just have to quickly draw around this one. So in total you need 1, 2, 3, 4 of these. Or did I do 4? Maybe I did 4. 1, 2, 3. No, I didn't. And slightly different colour. That's right. Let's grab the actual ones. That was from the first run. So let's just draw around this one, and it just goes on the inside. Just to sort of tie the inside and the outside together. Now I haven't stamped sentiments on the inside of these. I tend to leave them blank. I will often send cards like this out in orders, so if you do place an order, you might get a handmade card from me. You never know. They sometimes don't go out in every order because I don't have a stash sitting there, but sometimes I do. Just depends on if I have been demonstrating and doing classes. You never know. It'd be lovely to make one to go out with every order, but some days it just gets crazy. I'm also a single mum to a teenager, so you can tell how life is crazy around here. She'll be a teenager in December, God help me. Is that when we send them all to the moon? Nah, she's a pretty good kid. Okay. So we're going to stick this just in here like this. Just some double-sided tape. I'm going to make sure I don't use that thumb again to get up the bits of double-sided tape. This is actually double-sided tape from Couture Creations. I get this from Hillbilly Scrapping. She sells it in mega packs of 10 rolls or 12 rolls for an awesome price. And that means I can use a fair bit of it. Just monitoring that finger that I'm not going to spoil my work. Now, while we're on the inside, we are going to take some baker's twine. Just trying to find a piece that'll work. That piece might be long enough in the blue colours. I had to go find my scrappy bits because I don't sell baker's twine. Okay, so I want to tie a bow, so I want to start this in the middle, and I want to go around at least a couple of times. Get out of the way, thumb. Oh, it's going to be twice on this, and we'll see if it'll match up. See if I can tie a bow. Or a knot. It's going to be a knot, not a bow this time. So this basically just stops the card from falling forward. Where's an extra person's finger when you need it? Don't you do that when you're tying bows and strings on presents? Get someone to hold it down. There we go. So I'm just going to move the knot over so it's not going over that prettiness. So when this sits up here, it's going to have quite a bit of weight on it because it's got 4 layers of cardstock plus all the embellishments on it. So it's going to sit nicely here. Oh, sorry, out of frame. It's going to sit nicely here and not come forward. Just going to put a bit of glue stick under that tip because I don't want that to come up. when the card is sitting there. It's just a normal kid's glue stick. Okay, now let's work on our front panel of our card. We've done it backwards, but that's the one we picked up. Now, let's stick all these layers together and see if we got them right. Apologise if you can hear a little bit of noise in the background. My daughter's bunnies. Yes, we've got two little fluffy bunnies in the house. In the winter, they live in the back of my craft room. And in the summer, they live in my daughter's air-conditioned bedroom because she's only got, she's got the only room that's air-conditioned. And they're making a bit of noise at the moment. Not sure whether my camera will pick it up. But if you hear scurrying and you hear pulling of boxes, we give them cardboard boxes to destroy. That's what they're doing. That's what that noise is. Sometimes you can hear it in my videos, sometimes you can't. Every time I go to film, the bunnies get loud. I think they think I'm talking to them. So I'm just removing the double-sided tape. Just being careful not to stab myself under my nail again. This is terrible tape. No, it's really good tape. It's just, I must have got it on the wrong angle. So I'm just lining it up. Oh, I think I got that crooked. No, I've got extra here, so I'm just going to trim a little bit off here. As I said, lining up and doing these layers is not my forte. I'd probably prefer to tear my layers, but I thought I would be different. Okay, so we've got black and a white. Why have we got so much of a gap? Because I cut it that way. No, because we're doing that. Aha. That's why we've got so much of a gap. Oh, because it's the base of the card. Oh, silly me. I thought this went on top, but it doesn't. I thought I'd made a mistake. I'm sorry if this is a bit boring. Maybe I'll go and cut this out when I edit. I don't know, it's hard to sort of, when I'm doing a class like this or a demonstration sort of, it's hard to know what to leave in. So if I'm aiming this at a beginner, I will put all of this in. If I'm aiming it at someone more advanced, I will sort of skip through a lot of this sort of stuff. That's all right. Feel free to fast forward until I pick up these if you want to. Oh, stuck down a bit. Didn't want to do that. Now, a friend said if I get corner to corner right, let's get that out of there. If I line up the corners, usually it's a lot easier, maybe not. Definitely think I have to invest in some of those dies that cut my paper. Then they might be the right size. I admire these card makers that do all these beautiful layers. Hillbilly Scrapping, Jen from Hillbilly Scrapping does amazing scrapbook layouts with all these beautiful, all layered, all the same size, all perfectly lined up layers. And I look at it and go, oh, wow. And I say to her, don't ask me to teach that because it ain't going to work. So I design a lot of the classes I teach at Hillbilly because then I can do them in my style. Last layer, and then we have got to stick our leaves on. We're nearly done, actually. Hasn't taken long at all. And out of all the stamped images I stamped out, I can possibly make a few more cards. Oh, that's looking pretty good. It's not perfect, but hey, it's as good as it's going to get. Okay, now the fun begins. Now when I stick these on, I want to have them overlapping, have them overlapping out to here, just to tie the image into the, so we have one down there, we have one there, we have this one out here, this one here, and this one sort of tucked under here. So if you have them coming out, not out beyond your card, but out beyond that blue layer, it sort of ties that layer all together. And we're actually going to glue these with a glue stick, because then we're going to get overall coverage. So I tend to lay the pieces out where I want them to go. I'm sorry about the table wiggling. And then I will put them back. Whoops. Put them back, and I'm following along with my guide of where my images are. Oops. So these leaves are sort of forming a nest, and then the birdie's sitting on top of the nest. Could be a branch as well. I love these two stamps because you can do so many things with them. They can be peacock feathers, they can be leaves. I've used them as wings. Just, they're so versatile. I like products that you can use in several different ways. Like some shapes you buy, you can only use for the one purpose. But I like designing things you can use a lot of different ways. Here we go. Where's my owl? He's peeping up here. So this is also why I use the thinner 180 GSM as opposed to using cardstock. Because if I used cardstock, yes, go over that way a bit. If I use the cardstock, these layers would be getting quite thick and chunky. But with this thinner paper, you can actually get your layers without getting too thick and chunky. Now we're going to draw his feet in. So basically just straight line down, and then like an upside down V, stretch the V out. And if you do it in the same scribbly effect as you did around the card, you wouldn't know that I've actually drawn those on. Now I like to do a scribbly border around the edge of the blue, just to tie it in. And I find if I go over it 2 or 3 times again, it's better than, and I know I do this fairly fast because I do this a lot. What I tell people is turn your brain off and just go for it. The more you think about it and the more you think, oh, am I going to do it right? Am I going to get it sort of good looking? Am I going to do it crooked? Am I going to do it straight? The more you think about it, the more conscious you'll be of it. But as you can see, I've just run around and that looks really, really cute. Now we are going to cut our sentiment into a banner. So we've got the white bit here. So my easy way of cutting a banner is I cut, make sure this is the right, I'm just going to take a little bit off the bottom to even it up. Make sure it's the size you sort of want it. And then I do go in the middle, eyeball the middle and cut into the middle. And then from the point of, line my scissors up from the point of the corner to the point of where you cut. And then you've got a simple banner. And then I just mounted it on, that's why keeping these scraps is good. Mount it on a little bit of pink to give it a bit of a border. And our card is nearly done. Apologise if the table's wiggling a bit or the camera's wiggling. I'm working on a trestle table at the moment. And it's a bit wiggly and squeaky. Okay, so now I'm just going to fussy cut around my shape just with about the even amount. Again, you could use a die if you had a die that cut banners, but I don't, so I'm just going to freehand it. I like freehanding a lot of things. Yes, I use dies and die cuts sometimes, but for simple things like this. And if it's not 100% perfect, I'm okay with that. And I can see that white is a bit crooked at the end. As I say, I'm 100% perfect with it, and then I notice this is a bit crooked, so I'm going to try to fix this a little bit, just because it's going to bug me. There we go, much better. I just took a little bit off. Now to tie this all the way into the card, I am going to grab this fine liner again. As you can tell, I love to doodle and I love to draw on things. And I'm just going to go same sort of fashion around the banner. Just be carefully not to smudge. This pen almost dries instantly, but it sometimes does take a couple of seconds to dry. That is a bit fatter than the other one. Maybe I take it back. I think I need to take a bit of this off. Beautiful. I'll just do my doodly bit again. Doesn't matter that I cut the pink bit off the back, you won't even see it. So I'm actually going to line that up with the black layer. So we've got the blue layer and the black layer. And stick it down. I didn't get glue on that little bit. Let's just take the whole thing off and glue it again. I find sometimes using a glue stick over this paint, it doesn't like to stick as well. And some glue sticks are better than others. This is an OK brand from Officeworks. These are like 70 cents each. I think I picked them up at school time. It works 99% of the time. Sometimes I have to get out the big boy glue, the more stronger glue. But that is very cute. Looks about the same. I find it really hard to reproduce things a second time. I really struggle with that. And when I'm filming classes, I obviously make a sample so I know what I'm doing. Or sometimes I just wing it and make it up as I go along. I've got an idea of what I'm doing. So this, and then I just film it as I go, or I make a sample and then I go back and try to replicate it. So just adding a bit of double-sided tape along this fold bit here, because this is where the card's going to stick. Our card front is going to stick on. We don't want to add any tape to this back bit. This is just going to be plain. You could add a bit of pattern paper there if you wanted to. I'm not going to this time. I could add a sentiment to the middle. I don't actually have a lot of sentiment greeting cards. I'm not, to tell you the truth, I'm not primarily a card maker. My happy place is an art journal or a big canvas. You give me little things like this and I usually have a hissy fit and freak out. But I'm getting there. I think I try to shove too much on it. That's my problem. Now all I've got to do is line this up with this, hopefully, and stick it. No, we don't want to do that. I find my trick with the tape doesn't work with this. I'm just struggling to, that's a bit better. Struggling with the black sitting on the black of lining it up. Oops, obviously need a bit more glue on that. Come on, tip. I just want a bit of glue on the tip. Squish it down. Does the other tip need a bit of glue? It does. I think it's a bunny's run around time. They're thumping at me. Okay, so this is the card. So when you open it up, so this bit is not stuck to this bit. That's an important bit. So it just folds up and down. Then you can fold it up on the desk and it sits up like an easel. And then it's nice and flat to send in the post. So thank you very much for watching my class, and let me know if you do go and make some birdie cards with our foam stamps. So these foam stamps will be on sale for the Great Australian Craft Show. Usually I put them on sale from a week, so they'll start the Thursday of the Great Australian Craft Show and then be on sale for the following Thursday. Actually, the class stuff goes on sale for a month. I apologise. So it will be on sale for a month with the class stuff, with the listing on the website. Sorry, I'm losing track. The bunnies are being noisy in the background. So thank you very much for persisting with me and being part of my card class today. I can't wait to see you all at real-time shows in hopefully 2021. Hopefully we can start our season off with March in Bendigo. We'll have to just wait and see. I miss the craft shows. I miss the people. I miss the interaction. It's usually my one event out of the house a month. Well, I go out other times, but it's my me time. Even though I run my business, I'm running my business. It's my me time away from my daughter, and it's just, I love teaching classes and I love being at the craft shows. Thank you very much. And if you've got any questions or comments, you can put some questions on our Facebook page, or you can message me through Facebook, and it's the same as my business name, Scrapbookingncraft. And I will leave you there. Thank you very much. I'll go deal with these bunnies. Bye for now.